I think that the exchange I made was to develop a better relationship with myself and to learn to trust myself. You know, I had to stand on this precipice of I might lose most of the people who are important to me, and yet I will survive that. I know who I am, and I know how to be a good friend to myself. And even if I am alone, I will be okay. When I started to think about just extending some of that love and care toward myself that I easily give to other people, it was pivotal. And to recognize I am worth loving like that. I deserve to feel that way too. I think the attitude that has served me best is curiosity. I learned to approach life with the question, what can I learn from this? Rather than immediately asking, why is this happening to me? I think a curiosity came when I stopped looking for certainty.
Welcome to Live Well, Be Wise, the podcast that deepens the well-being conversation, finding the gold in your stories of hardship and the connection to wise action and lived wellness.
We are your hosts, Dorinda Carlson
and Kari Lyons-Price. Welcoming August's neighbor, Betsy Watters. She is a Wenatchee-based artist, a mother, and a fierce advocate for mental health. She comes into the studio today to talk about the power of story. Her latest medium is both the written and spoken word. Betsy shares both what it's like to stand on a stage in front of strangers at a live storytelling event, as well as living inside her own story and recognizing she is the author and editor-in-chief. And her stories are not fiction, my friends. She speaks from the loving heart of a mother whose son first experienced manic symptoms of what later would be called bipolar disorder at 18 years of age. She has faced the hardship of advocating for loved ones living with mental illness. And what has she learned? Well, good thing you asked. Because in our conversation, and at the core of Betsy's wisdom, is honoring curiosity over certainty, the power of personal boundaries, faith deconstruction, and learning to care for and love herself. Please welcome in this beautiful, heart-wrenching, and meaningful story shared by our neighbor today, Betsy Watters.
So this morning on the way to the interview, I was thinking how we all three have different names, Kari, Dorinda, Betsy, and I just was like, oh, we need some background on that. It's not every day that you hear these names, and I know my mother found my name in a baby book because she grew up in an age in the 50s where Donna was so common. She wanted her children to feel like somebody, not just in a mass. So she found Dorinda in a baby book while she was in the hospital. So Betsy, well, maybe we should go Kari first.
It's Norwegian. It's a common Norwegian name. It's not short for anything. It's Kari.
And spelled the way?
It's spelled exactly the way, Kari. Okay. Mm-hmm. And my mom had been dreaming about having a baby for probably since she was a young girl. And she wasn't able to have me until she was 39 years old. Wow. After multiple miscarriages.
I did not know this.
Yes.
Wow.
And she had picked out the name she was going to have for her baby girl decades before. I mean, probably, I don't know. She said she was writing it on her notebooks in school.
Oh.
And I'm the name of an ancestor.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. A great-great-great-grandmother, Kari Kvami, and she immigrated from Norway in 1873.
Oh, that's so special. Me?
Your turn.
Hey. So, funny story. My name is actually Elizabeth, and my mom's name is also Elizabeth. But for some reason, my mom was called Becky, which is not actually a derivative of Elizabeth. She was not a fan of that. And I was also named, my middle name is Luella, which is also an unusual name. That is my paternal grandmother's name. And my dad chose that my name would be Elizabeth Luella. And my mom was not a big fan. And so she said, well, if that's what we're naming her, I'm calling her Betsy Lou. And
That
Like
is
on day one
so-
or before you even born.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so
So-
cute, though.
For years, I was like, I would never tell people my middle name. I was embarrassed of it. And I felt like I had kind of two old lady names. But I love Betsy now. I love that I've only met a handful of them in my life, maybe 3 or 4. I appreciate the name. I don't feel like I'm an Elizabeth at all and never would go by any other name. So, and the people who know me best and love me the most call me Bets, and I like that too.
So excited to have you here, Betsy. I am happy to have met you anyhow, but then in a common art class and then sharing stories and life stories. And that was probably, I think, the most vulnerable part of your art is that you shared about your life, a slice of life that was difficult. Not only did I appreciate it there in that space, I mean, it was very inspirational, actually, because I know I tend to, I hide behind my art. I will put my art up and I don't have to identify with it. Or it can be Dorinda's, right? Or it can be Dorinda's feelings or expression. But I definitely don't have to tell the whole story. And with you being a writer and an artist, you like to share your stories. And yeah, I bow down to that because that can be really hard. However, recently you were with an art project called
The Storytime
The
Project.
Storytime Project, where you got to share your story in person to an audience.
Yeah, the Storytime Project event. It's a fairly new invention. The idea came from Jason Sims, who's a local magician and comedian and performer. And his idea behind it was bringing people together to share their stories. And their inaugural event was at Artworks. It was in April, and I went and was deeply moved by it. Found it to be one of the most intimate, connected, spiritual things I've have participated in a very long time. The vulnerability and transparency that people brought was just incredibly moving. So after attending, which happened actually in the middle of our art class that Dorinda mentioned, I was working through at the time trying to figure out a new lane of art to approach, and storytelling was the direction I was kind of picking up. And so I felt very inspired by the event. And as I was each week sharing something I'd written in our class and talking through, many of the people in our class had attended this inaugural Storytime event. And I was getting a little bit of nudging to share something next time.
You mean encouragement?
Yes, exactly.
Get your ass on stage, Betsy. That kind of encouragement.
Yeah, you've got something to say. There's some universal messages here. I think your story would benefit anyone who was listening. So I'd never done anything like that. And when the time came around for the second event, I summoned up the courage to submit something. But with the theme for this particular event being independence, and it's independence,
Okay.
And so I sat down one day and just started typing out this new story, not new, but new to putting it on paper. And it just came out in probably an hour and a half. I just wrote the whole thing. And I had a few edits, but for the most part, what I wrote down initially is what I shared. Then on July 3rd at Watercolor, I got up on stage, and I'd been practicing because I have not spoken in front of people like that. I have not spoken into a microphone. I had never done anything remotely like that. Get up on stage. I had this sort of out-of-body moment where I felt like I was kind of looking above myself, and I had no nerves. My voice was not shaking. I didn't speak too fast, which is my tendency when I get nervous. And I was talking, to myself outside of my own body, being like, "You're doing it. Like, you're actually doing it.
Your cheerleader self showed up.
Yes.
Rock star.
And I had a lot of really positive feedback after I finished. I had people come up to me and tell me how relatable my story was or what they'd had experience with. Lots of people told me it made them cry, which wasn't the goal, but mattered.
You touched them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's encouraged me and given me some motivation to keep going.
Nice.
Even though it still scares me. And even though I do struggle with imposter syndrome and like, who is this going to help or what is the point or whatever, I still feel like there's something here. There's something that's universal. Just keep showing up. Keep trying.
Maybe it's for you now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's for you first.
Yeah.
What if that was true?
Yeah.
I think as women, we don't often think in that direction.
Yeah.
It's the out
certainly,
direction.
100%. Yes. Yeah.
What's the point of this? Well, maybe I want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to do it. I mean, I think of you guys as more like traditional artists and like paint and what is your medium besides writing? Is there?
It's all over the place.
Oh, okay.
Some graphic design, some paint, some interior design, some photography.
If you were to just think about like the artist as a archetype or the artist in you, right? She has needs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm really feeling when you're starting to tell about this story. I really want to get to the story, but I also really want to ask first, how did that feel different? If you've been an artist and all these using these different meetings for probably a fair bit of time, right? Mm-hmm. Most of your life. How did this resonate different from that sort of artist self?
Similar to what Dorinda said about, there's ways when you create a piece and you put something on a canvas or you are working there's a little bit of like, you can kind of create some distance from it, or it's a lot more open to interpretation or how it resonates with someone else, where it's not as like defined or specific. Gotcha. As you're using words and sharing lived experience, I would say it is a lot more vulnerable.
Yeah. And
if you're a person who's afraid of criticism or judgment or whatever, I feel like there's less to hide behind, maybe. Yes. There's more that could be potentially offensive or more to dissect or like criticize, I guess, ultimately. And so it does feel a lot more vulnerable.
Right. There's no polish.
No.
There's no chance to come back and tweak, or it's just like laid bare. That's the phrase I think of.
Well, and it's also, this is my story. This is my life. And if it doesn't resonate or land, or if someone has something critical, it feels like a rejection of me. It feels more
personal.
Yeah, it feels a lot more.
If they don't like your photographs or your art, you're like, meh.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is personal.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that part.
Yeah.
So tell us, what story did you bring today to share with us, Betsy?
I feel a little conflicted about which direction to go, but ultimately, I think that the framework of your suggested questions, some of the things I looked through, kind of helped direct me toward, it's maybe not about a specific story, but sort of like some life lessons, places I feel like I have gotten to, or things that I am sure of or certain of right now.
Confident about.
Yes, confident.
Absolutely.
That's a great word. What I know about who I am. I think that's the thing that has really, really dramatically changed for me, I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, is the transformation from being a person who had a lot of insecurity and instability to a person who has a lot of confidence. I don't know like how this is all going to work out, but I know who I am and I know how I'm going to respond, and I trust myself to show up in these spaces.
So you do have a way to navigate.
Yes.
And sometimes that's more important than anything, right? And that is our foundation. If you know how to navigate yourself, then you can move forward.
It's like if you're out in the ocean in the boat, that's life. There's the ocean. That's all of life happening, every wave. You need a sail. That's your navigation.
Yeah.
And you need to know how to work the sails to move where you want to move. So let's give the listeners a taste of what's the how around arriving at some of this?
When you didn't have
Knowing.
sales.
Yeah. So just in a nutshell, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. I'm the oldest. I have 3 younger sisters. My parents were quite young when they had me and very unprepared to be parents. Both of my parents have struggled with substance abuse. I had very nurturing matriarchal energy from the time I was tiny little person. Very much a caretaker, very much a problem solver. Could see, had a lot of discernment from a really early age. You know, some people call it hypervigilance. I was tracking on all the things all the time. So that, you know, kind of sets the stage for a life of a lot of showing up in caretaking roles. And
Were you the mother in your household?
pretty much,
Correct.
yeah, including to her and for her.
Yes.
Quite frequently. Confidant and support and therapist and all the things.
Yep.
Which is a role that I resigned from in my mid-20s after my oldest child at the time, who was 3, remarked to me one day after I got off the phone with my mom, who would call me every morning without fail to process her latest drama or her anger with my dad or whatever was going on. My son said to me, "Mommy, why do you take calls from grandma in the morning? You are always sad after you get off the phone with her." And I just really took that to heart. It hit me and moved me. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And shortly after, I bought a book on boundaries and I started doing my work learning about boundaries.
Yeah, what is that saying? Truth from the mouths of babes.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, for my first like introduction into like boundaries was, you know, a result of the wisdom that little one had about what he was seeing happening for me. And so grateful for that. I continued in the, obviously I have 2 sons. I was a young mom. I had my first son when I was 21 and my second son when I was 22. They came back to back. I literally would not like change any part of that. Having them back to back was tough, but it was also incredible and amazing. And so I was a mom to my own kids, but I also continued to be very involved in a mother-like role for my siblings through. So I'm quite a bit older than my siblings. I'm 5 years, for almost 6 years older than my next sister, and then 7 years older, and then 9 years older. So I did a lot of caretaking. And when my mom continued to abdicate her role as mom more and more as they got into like middle school and high school, I just kind of kept stepping in to the point of one of my sisters as a teenager came to live with us in our home. So my husband and I were 22 with 2 babies, and then we inherited a 16-year-old.
Wow.
As well.
Yeah.
So it was a busy time, but it was a sweet time. The continued process of still trying to figure out boundaries, who I am in the world, you know, apart from being a caretaker, that's sort of always been my struggle, trying to navigate when you grow up in a very chaotic, unpredictable home. As a child, it's very difficult to feel your own feelings or to make space for your own feelings.
Right.
There's a lot of, I'll deal with that later. I'll experience that later.
There's no room for you.
No room.
There's no room.
No validation for what you're experiencing, no space. So I delayed a lot of my own feeling, my own experience, which comes back around. It demands to be reckoned with at some point.
Thank you for that. Yes, it does.
And
usually in very painful ways.
Yeah. So for me, I would say that reckoning came when my kids started to enter the teenage years. And we moved away from Bellingham to Phoenix, Arizona. And I hated it. hated it. But it was something that my husband had really wanted to do, and wanting to be a good, supportive partner. I really suppressed my own experience of how much I hated it. I have a very, very, very intuitive oldest child, as I mentioned before. My little guy.
Oh, yeah.
he saw right through my masking bullshit about I'm okay here. Like I'm just going to be play the supportive role.
Fake
and
it
was
till I
like,
make it.
He hated it too.
Oh.
And he was like, Mom, like, come on, you hate it. I know you hate it. And I felt like I was being so inauthentic, but I also didn't want to undermine my husband and I didn't want to be unsupportive. And it started to cause a lot of like distance and conflict between me and my oldest son because he knew I wasn't being authentic and he knew I was like miserable. So that was when things started to get really difficult. And at that time also, my oldest, we started to recognize there were some things that were going on for him that were not just like developmental, like age appropriate sort of challenges. It was really subtle at first. We started to see, some anxiety and some defiance and some just intensity and sort of inability to like regulate emotionally.
And he's like 15?
He was about 15 at the time. Yeah, he was. And really, really struggling, having a hard time like making friends, having a hard time finding connection, was trying to stay connected to his old life and, playing a lot of video games to stay like connected to his friends in Bellingham. And we ended up taking him to see a therapist because, he was just having such a tough time. And they were kind of suggesting, he's just got sort of like generalized anxiety and suggested taking him to a psychiatrist, took him to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist said, yeah, anxiety, offered to prescribe medication. He was not interested in taking any medication and we were not going to force that upon him. It's a really good thing we did not medicate him for anxiety because things would have gotten way worse, way fast if we had.
So yeah, what happened?
So fast forward a couple of years. We're in his senior year of high school. He's already 18. He has a December birthday and still living at home and finishing school. And he has a first manic episode. So we're nearing the end of his senior year. He's got a month and a half maybe left of school. My husband leaves for a business trip, goes to Boston. And the night he leaves, my son has his first taste of alcohol. He's never had any substance in his life. And for some people, that's like not a big deal. For some people whose brains are vulnerable and sensitive for whatever reason, bring issues to the surface that like you didn't know were there. And so what I start to see over the next days is extremely erratic behavior from him. I see very rapid mood changes, big like energy to like big anger to crying to erratic behavior.
Nothing like he was.
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
You must have been terrified.
I was terrified and felt so just bewildered by it. And my husband was out of time. And our partnership is quite strong. And we are very much just how we both grew up. We are sort of the top of the food chain in every situation in terms of like adult support. Like we don't have parents to rely on. We don't have other, like we're the oldest in both of our families. And so with him being gone in particular, it was just terrifying. And every day it got a little bit worse and a little bit worse and a little bit worse. He wasn't sleeping. He culminated with an event that I ended up needing to call law enforcement. He was threatening
for his own safety.
He was threatening to harm himself. But before he had done that, he had actually like done some property damage. And unfortunately, the law in Phoenix is property damage like that is domestic violence. So, and the property damage was punching a hole in the wall. It's domestic violence. And so I was afraid to say, this is in 2017. I was afraid to say at the time, hey, he's threatening to harm himself because I thought, they're going to take him away and like take him to a hospital or whatever, which that's probably what he needed. But I was more afraid of like saying that. So I said, he's being erratic. He punched a hole in the wall. So just a couple cops come in and they do a sort of scared straight routine with him and are kind of like, they put him in handcuffs as he's like sitting on my couch and they're trying to intimidate him and drill him. And one of the officers like kind of discreetly tells me like, hey, we're just kind of doing the scared straight thing with him. Like we're going to put him in the car and like just basically drive him around the block, but we're going to bring him back and it's going to be, it's going to be fine kind of thing. Well, then as they're getting a little bit more information, they want his birth date. And I say that he's 18 and they were like, oh, well, this changes everything. So they take him to jail,
Jail.
like big jail, like
Wow.
Maricopa County, big Phoenix jail. And he is terrified.
And he just punched a hole in a wall.
Yes.
Your wall.
Nothing.
Yes.
There was nothing to prepare either one of you.
No, not at all. And so again, husband's out of town and I am hysterical. I'm calling him and I'm like, they just took him and I don't know what to do. They wouldn't listen to me because it was domestic violence. I couldn't say, I'm not pressing charges. Like, I'm not doing, like, I don't want this.
You don't get to say that yet.
No. And so they take my child off and he's having a mental health crisis. He is actively in a mental health crisis at this time. We don't know what that is.
Yeah, you didn't have any of that language yet.
No. So I call the therapist that he's been working with for about 8 or 9 months first thing the next morning. And she's a mom. She's got a kiddo that has some similar stuff to what she's seen in my son. And she says, okay, I'm not Sean's therapist right now. A mom. I'm going to talk to you mom to mom. I believe there's a mood disorder here. Like, that's what I've seen. I can't diagnose. I can't tell you what it is, but I think it's a mood disorder. And she tells me about her child that has bipolar disorder. And she shares, here's some things I've seen. Here's what this looks like. Here's what we've done. So that kind of is when it hits me. And I start to do a bunch of research and I start to understand. And I'm like, oh, yep, this all checks out. So...
And how did the symptoms, if you will, of the mania, how long did that episode last? Or
it got worse because one of the things that a lot of people don't understand about even once you get to a diagnosis is that when your brain chemistry decides that it's time to be manic or go into psychosis or any of those things, like the recovery, it hurts your brain and it takes time for that process to go through the cycle. But also, if you're not medicated at all when that happens, the next step is like, okay, what medication do we try? Well, that's a crapshoot. And sometimes the medications make things worse. So the first medication they tried for him was terrible, made everything worse. He was paranoid and had no energy and was super angry. And I want to say it was like 10 days, maybe 2 weeks on that medication. It was like, no, this is not the one. So it takes such a long time because then it's like, okay, well, what next? What do we try next? So this process was months long. I mean, this happened in May, and I would say it wasn't until August or September that we saw anything that looked remotely like stability. Even that, he still wasn't on the right medication. And so stability was like just a little more stable than he had been. I think we tried a couple more medications over the course of the summer with all varying not good side effects. And so it's been a process. And even still, he was diagnosed as bipolar 2 because he hadn't officially had a psychosis. It was just mania. He is now diagnosed bipolar 1 with psychotic features.
Okay.
He has actually had that experience and had to be hospitalized. And he is thankfully stable now and on a medication that has been life-changing. And so super grateful for that. But we've been through it. Our mental health care system in this country is severely lacking. Support for families is severely lacking. When someone is over the age of 18, it's really, really difficult. When they get mad at you, they can decide to pull, the ROI, which is the release of information. Your advocacy, you're not taken seriously. Doctors minimize you, even though you know this person better than anyone. You've had more experience. They don't believe you when you're like, yeah, we've tried this, we've tried that, don't put him on that medication again. Don't do that.
Right. He's not an adult in the way we define and think of adult.
Right. And the reality is even when someone is experiencing a mental health crisis, adult or not, they're not themselves when they're in that space. And so
thank you for,
and I think that's the thing that is, I think, particularly difficult is how to navigate. You don't want to remove someone's autonomy and agency ever. I am so pro autonomy and agency for humans. And yet when their brain is betraying them and they are not thinking clearly, there've got to be trusted people that can step in. And so my advocacy is for people to have a plan, create a safety plan when people are stable, put the systems in place when things are stable so that
so you can use it in the crisis.
Exactly, because it's fantastical thinking to believe, well, it just won't happen again.
Right.
Like once we get stable, once we get the right meds,
yeah.
once we whatever, that it's like it's a done deal. It's not. I mean, the likelihood that there will be episodes for whatever reason, it could be, you know, a couple of like sleepless nights can start an episode, or
Lots of triggers.
all sorts of triggers, or just even like some medications just stop being as effective as they once were, body chemistry changes or whatever. And so creating a plan for what are we going to do when this happens again? It's just not ever going to happen again. And so, yeah, that's my advocacy at this point.
So at that point, you still didn't have any sales.
No.
You're still trying to navigate the situation. So he didn't graduate?
He did graduate.
Okay.
He did.
He did.
We were able to help limp that along.
Wow.
to the end. And fortunately, he graduated, and it didn't impact. He had already decided he was going to take a gap year, and so he wasn't going directly into college, which was a very wise choice for him. He decided to start working full time that following year after graduation, or pretty much immediately after. And he found a lot of like purpose and stability in having a job and doing a job well. He's brilliant. He, in addition to having bipolar disorder, he is on the autism spectrum and has ADHD. So he has
some challenges.
He has some challenges, but like the most amazing brain I've ever also seen or experienced. He's incredibly gifted in so many ways. And so I do feel like sometimes some of our most gifted humans are, you know, sometimes the most challenged in some of those spaces. And so
I think this is the moment, if you don't mind, to ask, what is one thing, because I'm sure you learned a lot living through this big life experience with your son and his mental illness. What have you learned?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say for me, something that I have learned, this has come along with a bit of faith deconstruction as well, because I grew up with a very strong evangelical background. I used to very heavily tie this thing is happening because I did or didn't do something. And, you know, I wasn't having enough quiet times, or I wasn't praying enough, or I wasn't, that somehow that there was this sort of cosmic exchange of if I do these things or if I don't do these things, then these other
good
things
or bad
will happen. Yeah. And so I think the thing that has brought me the most peace that I have learned is that stuff just happens, and it is not consequence or reward. Life can just sometimes be hard. Sometimes it's just confusing. Sometimes it's good. And there's not really an explanation for it. And actually, for whatever reason, that maybe sounds a little wild, but like I take more peace in that than striving. I have, that hypervigilant, like I got to make sure I'm doing everything that I can.
Because you're subtracting the blame.
Yes.
And the fault. Whose fault?
Yes.
That's the thing where it spirals into real toxicity.
Yes.
For all of us. Yeah. And we all do this, faith or no faith. But I'm so glad you're bringing that up.
That's what I was just thinking about, faith or no faith, because I was also thinking as women, we tend to be fixers, feel that is something that is true. And so when you can't fix or you're trying to find the fix, and also when you're talking to friends and family about these issues, they want to fix. So then you feel this extra layer of I'm not doing it right. I didn't do this enough or that enough. Or
because fixing and faulting.
Yes.
So
they're embedded.
100%.
So meshed.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And so how did you unplug from that? Just give us a little more on that.
It was a process. For sure.
I would imagine, and I see it like as an unraveling.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. At first, it felt like a dissection or like like severing. It was, I would say, as I started that process, I felt very untethered, afloat in the world. And I had anchored myself to a lot of these like religious concepts or ideas. And I felt I was betraying God or myself or like my community.
What was the beginning, though? What was the spark that made you think there's another way?
I think, really seeing a lot of my community embrace things that I just believed were antithetically opposed to like everything I had grown up believing and who I had been taught Jesus was. The dissonance just was like, I can't. This is not. I don't understand. I can't do this. And so that was like, I think the first like little thread that was pulled for me was the dissonance in the whole community. And then I think there were a couple of books that I read at the time that started challenging all the ways that I had looked at the world and getting the opportunity to see, there was sort of a little bit more of a cynical building of how we got to where we were, where evangelicalism was like marrying like politics and getting the exposure on that. It made me feel comfortable questioning, because when you're in that system, questioning is not allowed. You're not supposed to.
Nope.
And so, so once it started to kind of get pulled, it was like it unraveled pretty quickly.
Yeah. How many years ago, roughly, how old were you when all this deconstruction
I would say it
happened?
first started about 2016. So I was in my 30s and
well on the other side of the first bipolar experience.
It was actually like right at the beginning of like, So 2017 was that.
So it was matched up.
Yeah, they were pretty matched up. And I think too, because some of the messaging I got was, well, you just need to pray more. Or there were people that were opposed to medication because it was like, well, that you just need to just ask God to like take it away or change it. How am I going to do anything here? Like, what are you talking about? So I feel like they were fairly kind of in step with each other. Yeah, when it's like, these systems just don't hold and don't make sense anymore for like your true lived experience, and probably didn't ever really, but finally got a chance to really look at it and go,
we need events like that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you needed an event like that. Sorry.
Right. But
we don't wish that on anybody.
No.
But that's kind of how it happens.
Yeah.
We get the big smack in our life, and then it's like, oh, and then the questions begin.
Yeah.
And then we don't know where we're headed. Thank you for sharing that. So where would you say you're at with that now? What's that sense of in you now that's replaced sort of the old paradigm?
What's changed? So growing up, I was taught you can't trust yourself. Your instincts are, you're born with this in nature. Your inclination, apart from this system, is toward evil, right? Like that you're born that way. That's like where you would be if you were not actively trying to not be.
So God's voice is the only voice to follow.
Yes.
And
This is the protocol.
Exactly. And having had examples in my growing up years of my parents who were a part of that system, but really didn't ever play by the rules of that system anyway, their behavior and their choices. I had lived a lot of my life being afraid I would be like my parents. And so instead of having something like a goal that I was focused toward, I want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. Mm-hmm. And so I was very fearful that I was like one misstep away. If I was not pious in all of these ways, I would be just like them.
Motivated by fear.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that the exchange I made was to develop a better relationship with myself and to learn to trust myself, to know that there isn't anything I'm going to do to act outside of my character and my integrity, and to really know that, like in the core of my being. It sounds kind of silly, but it was profound for me to recognize, no, I have like shown up consistently through my life. I have shown up with this value system of who I want to be as a human, apart from, this religious structure. I have character. I have a track record. I have, and to really like lean into that. And I think, there have been a couple other events that have happened also related to my son's mental health over the last several years where, I had to stand on this precipice of like, I might lose most of the people who are important to me, and yet I will survive that. Like, I know who I am, and I know how to be a good friend to myself. And even if I am alone, I will be okay. And unfortunately, I didn't ever, get to a place where I had to lose everything. But I did have to grapple with that idea. And I feel like I experienced what that would feel like. I feel like I really went through that as if it were a reality. And on the other side of it I still kept waking up. I was still alive, which some days was a surprise to me. And sometimes was an unwelcome surprise because it was such a painful time. But I wouldn't trade what I took away. And it's not in you got to find the gift in every bad situation, or you should be grateful for the stuff that happens that's hard. It's more of just, I am committed to being a lifelong learner. And okay, so this happened. What can I learn from it? Mm-hmm. What can I take away from it? What can I do differently next time? Mm-hmm. What new tools can I add to my toolkit?
And you learned that you have a voice and that you're a channel of your own truth.
Yeah.
You can count on yourself.
That I actually respect myself. I think that's another piece too, is that I actually respect myself.
Can we just take a breath on that one? Wow.
How do we get there?
I think it's like just a process of it being tested. I mean, I think tested repeatedly where you realize, there's some substance here. And
you're not an empty vessel. You're not a darkness.
Yeah.
That requires someone else's light.
Yeah.
You're the light.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling from you.
You may not even have a notion of respect or disrespect about yourself, but when you come to challenging moments in your life and your inner guide is directing you and you listen, that's when the moment happens. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I am here for myself. Mm-hmm. I'm supporting myself.
Yeah, our best self shows up.
Mm-hmm. Our best self shows up, and that is respect for ourselves.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that just hit me when you said, how do you know that you respect yourself?
Right. It's kind of like growing. I always think of, growing trust and respect for ourselves is exactly like we do it for each other.
Yeah.
In relationship.
Yeah.
It's mirrored. It takes time and practice. Mm-hmm. And that practice is usually hard things.
Mm-hmm. When I was going through the most recent difficult season that I went through in 2023, the acupuncturist that I was seeing at the time was amazing. And the work that we did in that space was life-changing for me. But one of the things that she gave me, one of the times I was seeing her when I was probably at my lowest low, was a little note that said, treat yourself as your own sacred guest. And I have that on my bulletin board in my office because it was so profound to me, being a very matriarchal energy person. And I love hosting people. I love having people in my spaces and like just loving on them and just making people feel like safe and at home and comfortable.
Like sacred guests.
Yes, exactly. And when she said it, it's obviously such a simple thing. But when I started to think about just extending some of that love and care toward myself that I like easily give to other people, it was pivotal. It was really pivotal. And to recognize like, I am worth loving like that. I deserve to feel that way too.
Because it can't flow one way.
No. And I think too, the other part is that it's who better can walk you through something hard that you're experiencing than your own wiser self.
This is so heartwarming. I'm just getting chills.
You're speaking our language, Betsy, and it's such a message that we all need to know.
We all forget.
Trenda loves to say, we all forget. Mm-hmm. But then she very keenly adds, and then we remember. Mm-hmm. And we remember through each other. So I'm always taken by this sort of heroine's journey, the inner journey, and this healing through hardship and this. But oftentimes when people get to this arc in the story and they share this beauty, sort of their own awakening and finding their voice, and then their wisdom starts to bubble up, I think, yes, and there's that massive cultural messaging of don't get too selfish, don't get too big for your britches. Mm-hmm. And religion is also very much part of that. it's not how we're supposed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we counter that messaging? What would you say to that question? How does feeding yourself in that relationship to self actually make you better or bring more goodness to the world? Or what's the add? What's the value add?
So a value of mine really is to be a person who puts good into the world. It's important to me to love people well. That is actually a goal, and it is something that I spend a lot of my energy and my attention and focus on. And doing the work to be the most grounded, whole, integrated version of myself is for me, but it also makes me better at the things I want to be good at. And
Gives you a foundation.
100%. A greater capacity to make a difference from. I've done some somatic work that has been really, really helpful. And one of those practices is learning to contain my own energy. One of my first somatic experiences, the practitioner asked me, she's like, close your eyes, be in your body. And then she's like, how far are you sensing from this space? And we were in one of the back rooms, and I was like, well, I know that there are people working on the roof right now. I sense that there's like all these people on the sidewalk out front. There's these people on the left. I was like so so tracking, so outside of my own body. And she was like, you need to bring that back in. So she gave me this visual picture of like, imagine yourself wearing like a scuba suit. It's like, it's not impenetrable, but keep your energy a little closer to your body, like attend to yourself. And it actually makes you better at showing up, because I think sometimes my energy being all over the place and my hypervigilance and tracking actually created anxiety for other people, because
Absolutely.
I was told, a couple of different times, because I'm pretty insightful and pretty discerning, again, trauma adaptation, that some people didn't feel like they had emotional privacy with me because I was reading them and they were like, I don't want to be read right now. So learning to focus on my own energy, to contain my own energy, to stay in my own body,
right,
to do that well, I think has made me a better mom, a better friend, a better spouse, just a better human. And I think people feel a lot more at ease with me because I am more at ease with myself.
Healthy boundary. That's beautiful. And in the energetic realm, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate how confidently you were able to say that.
I'm going to work on my own scuba suit.
Right. Well, and that's a part of what we try to do on our show, is not only share stories where others can, just like you did in Storytime, people can relate to, or they are saying, oh my God, I thought I was the only one with this story. And now they can go seek some resources. So this is one of the things that I love about us doing this show, is that we get to learn tools, like you were saying, tools in the toolbox, and we can all have more tools in the toolbox.
And I think the most important ingredient is like the fairy dust of inspiration over the box in my realm. Because that box, I'm sorry, but it could sit there. Those tools could go rusty.
Because we forget about it.
Yeah. Or you just get into this apathy, blasé life. And then it's like, you just need that spark. For me, it's like a literal little energetic flame.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I would probably want to share, summarizing my experience here, is I think the attitude that has served me best is curiosity. I learned to approach life with the question, what can I learn from this? Rather than immediately asking, why is this happening to me?
Ooh.
That doesn't mean I think everything happens for a reason or that painful things are secretly gifts. Some things are just hard. And I've found that curiosity gives me somewhere to go with hard things. It keeps me growing instead of becoming bitter. And
so where did curiosity come from in your life, and how did that door open?
I think curiosity came when I stopped looking for certainty. And certainty is what I was looking for.
Okay, so.
Okay, mind explosion. Oh my God. Wow, Betsy. I didn't link that. You know, we hear all the cliches. One of the big ones is you get comfortable with the unknown. But curiosity
came when I stopped looking for certainty.
So it's not be okay with the unknown. It's look past that, look through that.
Be uncomfortable. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. And that's the deconstruction part for me, because I was looking for certainty in faith and religion and all of those things.
Because certainty brings comfort.
Exactly. And so getting okay with that things are gray and not black and white, and that I don't know all the things or can't know all the things. Yeah. That's okay.
There's not an app for that? Oh, God.
Right?
Don't. There probably will be tomorrow. How can we start that revolution? Being okay with discomfort and uncertainty and allowing curiosity to have its way. It's like dreaming.
Yeah. Yeah, in some ways it is. I think it starts with like asking questions, and it's okay to ask questions. And it's also okay to not like get the answers immediately either, but don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid of having doubts. Don't be afraid of like recognizing these things just don't add up or don't make sense. Or I don't know. Another thing for me is like what got me here isn't necessarily going to get me there in terms of, you know, whether it's survival skills that like got me through childhood trauma, or whether it's, you know, this sort of religious system that got me, you know, to a certain place in my life. Sure. It's okay to keep reevaluating. It's okay to keep coming back to, is this actually still serving me? Did it serve me ever? Yeah, just asking questions, keep asking questions, keep learning new things, keep reading, keep listening to other voices, keep listening. Another thing, I mean, I talked about in this, I started to see an acupuncturist and I started to see a somatic therapist. When I was in my little religion box, those would have been like weird woo-woo things to not access. Like that would have been like, oh, you're opening some scary door there. And I have found so much help and healing in those spaces. So I think be willing to ask questions, be willing to be uncomfortable.
Right.
Well, something I also hear is experience things so that you do
lived experience.
Yeah, lived experience so you can assess and discern.
Well, in some ways, information can bring, I think, knowledge. Experience brings wisdom. And that's the track you're talking about. Yeah. And often that discernment, we're not really aware of that, the difference. Yeah, but and that's why we're all wise. That's why we all carry wisdom, because we all have lived experience. But how do we dance with that? Yeah. So what do you think if someone was to come up to you tomorrow and say, Betsy Watters, what's your wisdom?
So a few things I think I would say about how I'm wise, or well, not, it feels weird to say that.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
I think one is learning how to love other people well without abandoning yourself. I would say that was probably one of the more fundamental things I've had to learn, and where I feel like I've grown in wisdom is, like I said, being a caretaker sort of by nature, actually having it be in alignment of like, this is actually who I want to be. This is something I want to do. I had to take that apart. I had to dissect that to say, like, was this something that was put on me, or is this something that actually does truly resonate with me? And is it what I want for my life and for myself? And it is at the end of the day, it is. And so how to do that without abandoning yourself, making space to continue doing the work that you need to do to stay grounded, to stay centered, to stay whole. And for me, that's looked like approaching many different modalities for learning how to not abandon myself. So I would say I think that's like probably the biggest takeaway.
Yeah. May we all learn to love well and not abandon ourselves. I think that starts probably with loving ourselves. I can't let the show close, though, as a mental health person myself, and hearing this really big journey that you've been on with your son, and not ask for you specifically to speak to parents. Just a moment. What would your encouragement be for them?
There's no shame in it. I think historically has been a lot of stigma about mental health And it's prevented people from accessing resources and sharing their own lived experience or reaching out to community resources, things like that. I would say for us, we've participated in NAMI. That's been a helpful resource for us. Get yourself to a NAMI meeting
And that happens in Wenatchee?
there are NAMI
Great.
meetings in Wenatchee. Yes, they meet in
So
person.
for those that don't know, because that's an acronym, correct?
Yeah,
National Association of Mental Illness, I think.
I think it is. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's what it is. There are virtual meetings. There are in-person meetings here in Wenatchee. Just getting to be with other people and recognize, like, I'm not alone in this. Educate yourself. Don't live in that fantastical thinking place of it's a one and done or it's settled, because our system in this country is so lacking and so broken. Know what the laws are in your city or your town or your state. Have in mind what resources you're going to access, because when you're in the moment of crisis is the worst time to try to figure out, well, what hospital do I go to,
Right.
or what psychiatrist do I call, or what know about the medications. Like, educate yourself about the medications, educate yourself about what symptoms look like. Go to school, essentially. No one's going to walk you through this.
Yeah.
No one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to help you. And I don't say that as a discouragement, but take initiative, because
Be your own best advocate.
yes, and be the best advocate you can for your kid by doing those things. And the other thing I will say is, as a parent of now an adult child that has mental health challenges, your assignment as a parent looks really different than maybe some other people who don't have children who have these kinds of challenges. You don't really get to go off duty in the same way when your child reaches a particular age, because they're going to need extra support
Yeah.
forever.
And
And
you even feel that now, and he's, 30?
he's 27. Yeah. And even though he's stable and even though he's doing really well. And so recognizing you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah. Thank you. Any final comments?
Well, thank you for having me. I felt a little, I don't know, the imposter syndrome of does my story, is it worthy of a podcast, or, do I have something that's helpful or important to say? And so thank you for giving me the opportunity. If it even just, helps one person feel less alone with what they're experiencing, it's absolutely worth it. And I think even for myself, getting more practice, sharing my experience, which I know is not unique, I think better equips me to keep sharing my story and to keep showing up in places that, it may be helpful. So thank you for the opportunity.
It is our deepest pleasure. We're all on this ride together.
Yeah.
And you sharing your story today, it just gives me such a burst of my own humanness. See you on the stage. That's what I want to do. That's the plan I want to make.
Live Well, Be Wise is produced and recorded by Kari Lyons Price and yours truly, Dorinda Carlson. Our music is titled Inside You by Leva, a musician and composer at Lemon Music Studio, who we happily found on pixabay.com. Our circle of sharing has concluded for today, but we'd like to give a great gratitude to you, my friend, for listening, for tuning in, maybe even tapping into that understanding and compassion and the knowing within that tells us we're not alone in our own stories. So maybe you would like to share one of your own, or know a friend or a mentor or a teacher, someone you admire that has an extraordinary and inspirational story. We all have stories. The more we share, the more we know we're not alone. And don't be shy to reach out to connect in other ways, too. Of course, we'd love for you to subscribe and also give feedback. We wouldn't be here without you. We appreciate you. Live well, be wise.